G'day, you with Nick Reinberger, 97.3 ABC Illawarra. It's 13 minutes away from 9, and thank you very much for being part of our program today. Also happening today, there's going to be a rally around disability support workers. We know it's very difficult working in disability at any time, but there's been allegations of wage theft around this industry for quite some time. Angus McFarland is with the Australian Services Union and joins us now here at 97.3 ABC Illawarra to tell us more. G'day, Angus.
Good morning, Nick. How are you doing?
Not too bad. What are you most worried about when it comes to your workers at the moment?
Well, what we're really worried about is the fact that in the NDIS at the moment, 1 in 4 workers leave the industry every year. That's actually more than retail or hospitality, and I think your listeners would be shocked to realise that's how big those figures are in terms of churn. And so we need to look at ways of actually keeping and attracting workers to this sector, because at the end of the day, this is about supporting people with disability, and this is about the NDIS fulfilling its promise to them. And you can't do that if you've got workforce sort of revolving door of people coming in and out of the industry. Now,
you're saying you want to stamp out wage theft. That's a pretty serious accusation. What does that mean when you say that?
One of the reasons we know that people are leaving is because they're not being paid properly. And this is something that we see, obviously, as a union, with members coming to us with, wanting to check their pay. But even the agency itself had reported last year to it 10% of providers in a survey that they did self-reported that they weren't paying their workers correctly. So it is a problem of payments not being correct, and it's just outrageous, really, and needs to stop. And we think the government should actually intervene, because there's simple things they could do, because it's a fully government-funded scheme. The government could simply say, hey, if you want to do business in the NDIS, pay your workers properly, and if you don't, get out.
I find this incredible, because the reason we have providers is they're supposed to do the admin, and that's what they take their cut for. And what are we hearing? Is it because of the kind of complexity of the Australian award system? What sort of explanations are we getting?
No, it's really so. Just without getting too technical into the industrial law, basically there's a very accepted a minimum rate for disability workers in the award. It's the level 2 rate, and that's what the NDIS and the government accept, and they actually fund everything at that level. And then on top of that, they do fund for admin and the other things that providers need to do, overheads and all of those things. But what we're seeing is about 10% of providers are actually taking that amount of money from a participant's package, saying, thank you very much, we'll claim at that rate, but then actually paying the worker less than that award rate, and pocketing around $5 or $6 an hour themselves. It would be equivalent to if a doctor charged on Medicare for a long consult but was actually only giving you 15 minutes of time. It is actually a fraud element as well as wage theft, because they're ripping off the NDIS at the same time as ripping off workers.
It reminds me of what was happening in New South Wales some years ago, when TAFE was opened up to competition, and we had all of these providers come into the market, and so many of them were found to be really shonky. Are we seeing the same thing with NDIS providers without naming any of them specifically?
Yeah, look, I think, unfortunately, we are. Look, I should say there are many, many good NDIS providers.
Well, of course.
And the majority are, and many of them are actually supporting the union's call and will be rallying with us in Wollongong. But yes, there are. We actually are noticing a lot of this, they're all in for-profit providers. We haven't really seen this at all in a not-for-profit. And they're generally in ones that have established themselves in the last couple of years. So they're newer for-profit entrants are the ones where we're seeing these rip-offs. And it does, I guess, make one think, well, is this because they've just seen, the NDIS is an easy way to make a buck, and they've come in?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what Bill Shorten was talking about, when we first got the job, when the government was elected, that looking at the NDIS and trying to stamp out waste. So is there a lot of waste to be stamped out, in your view?
Well, I think that what's the waste here is the churn. So the fact that 1 in 4 workers leave the sector every year is a massive cost to the industry, because what that means is every single provider is advertising, recruiting, training, onboarding, all the cost to set up a new worker is happening at ridiculous levels because 1 in 4 are leaving. So providers tell me that it costs between $10,000 to $15,000 to basically bring on a new worker in the NDIS with all of the onboarding and everything. Imagine if you cut down that churn, how much you could save, because there's just so much churn going on in the sector.
Okay, just before I let you go, Angus, I know you're also keen for what's called a portable leave and entitlement scheme for the sector. Could you briefly explain what that means?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that we're also calling for as a way to keep people and attract people to the NDIS. And what it basically would mean is that in the NDIS, there's a lot of work that is for different people with disability or different providers, and our members doing that work therefore don't get the kind of full-time benefits that other workers would get, because they're working across to support different people. And so we think a good solution to that is actually to have entitlements that would sit with you across the NDIS scheme, portable entitlements, like a leave bank or a training bank, where essentially as you work in the NDIS, your entitlements are pooled for you. And this does happen in other industries, and it's got a lot of support, including from the government's own NDIS review, which actually came out last month and said, yep, we agree with the union on this. You need to, you should implement this to the federal government. So we think it's a really good way of giving better job security for workers, because 1 in 3 are casual, and of the permanents, they're all on short-hour contracts. So this is a way to actually give people some certainty, so they can have time off for a holiday, or they are paid if they get sick. Basic stuff that a lot of us would expect would happen for workers in the NDIS just doesn't.
Angus McFarland, good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
It's Angus McFarland from the Australian Services Union. You with Nick Reinberger. This is ABC Illawarra. Nice to have you with us. Anytime you want to talk to me, give me a call on 1300 973 300. Anytime. It's 6 minutes away from 9.